As someone who suffers with anemia, I know all too well how life-altering iron deficiency can be. Whether it's the overwhelming fatigue, the dry and brittle nails, the difficulty concentrating, it takes a toll. And then sometimes the supplements and treatments for iron deficiency have unpleasant side effects. That's why I'm excited about Citarol. Citarol from PharmaNutra is a premium iron supplement powered by sucrosomial technology. This helps your body absorb 3 to 4 times more iron while avoiding the common side effects of traditional iron supplements, the nausea and constipation. Citarol stands apart with 150 published clinical studies, unlike most supplement brands that have little to no clinical research. It's globally trusted and it's convenient. You can take it at any time, so there's no need to adjust your meals. It fits seamlessly into your day. It's 100% allergen free, it's vegan and gluten free. So if you're nodding along and I'm describing the symptoms because you are exhausted and your brain feels like it's in a fog, this could be exactly what you need. Join over 2 million people who have already discovered Citarol and found the help they needed. Head to pharmanutra-us.com and use the code BGB for 10% off your first order of Citarol. That's pharmanutra-us.com. Promo code BGB for 10% off today. Welcome to the Black Girl Burnout Podcast. Kelley here. And today I want to continue the conversation from last week where we talked about the cost of carrying it all and when juggling isn't joyful and the multiple roles so many of us play in our lives and how difficult it can be to find balance. And we talked about ways to do that, to practice those soulful pauses, the micro breaks, the grief break, the joy break, really just about creating space in your life to reflect, to feel, to smile, and to create opportunities to bring more alignment into your life versus balance, because balance is a myth in this day and age, but alignment is absolutely within your reach. And so this episode is for you if you've been feeling stretched thin. We're going to take time to talk about the ways caring can nourish you versus the way caring can break you. And trust me, if you've been following along this journey with me for the past couple years or even months, you know that I know this very well. And I know you know this very well in your life. But I personally have carried many roles in my life over the last couple years that some of which were unexpected. I've had really ill parents and the death of a parent. I've had to juggle personal career responsibilities. I've tried, maybe not always successfully, to be a good friend. I've been carrying a lot. And I felt at times very stretched thin. And again, some of that was not due to anything I did wrong or anyone else did wrong, just life. And we're not even talking about the roles I may feel to my community, you, the roles I may feel globally as just like an empathetic human looking at the suffering of others. It's been a lot to carry. Being the friend, the daughter, a partner, even a therapist to everyone, it can produce these moments where you say to yourself, I can't keep doing this. I am hitting my breaking point. If you are feeling that way, I would say with 100% certainty, you are not alone. And so many Black women carry this. Whether people label it as eldest daughter syndrome or people pleasing, whatever it is, I think so many of us have this realization, maybe multiple times a day, but certainly multiple times in our lifetime, where we think, I can't keep going. I don't know how I've been going. I don't know how I'm going to keep going like this. And I want to tell you that this episode is about giving you an alternative to feeling like you just have to keep going and keep caring. Because the truth of the matter is, so many of us are collapsing under care, which is why this episode is about caring without collapsing and how to support others without losing yourself. Because So many of us are losing ourselves and are collapsing. We may be smiling. We may still go to work. We still may be raising our kids. We still may be caregiving in other capacities. We may be being the star partner to others. But internally, we are collapsed. We are invisible. And that produces resentment, that produces high functioning depression, which I do want to talk about coming in the next year, what that looks like. There's been a lot of literature and studies about how depression shows up in Black women and anxiety, and it looks very different. It looks like what a lot of us feel like when we're carrying too much and don't know how to keep going, but manage to go on anyway. And there are various different reasons why this shows up in the Black community. The eldest daughter syndrome I already mentioned, but really there's strong cultural conditioning that keeps us trapped in this. We're superwoman. We can take it all. We are resilient. We're built for this. Black women are built different. We just do it. Those kind of messaging, while not malicious in intent, can be so damaging. Yes, Black women are strong. Yes, we are resilient. But we're not built for collapse. We're not built for suffering. We are not built to be stretched thin and feel invisible. That is a lie. And even a well-meaning lie can still do huge amounts of damage. So we have to unlearn cultural conditioning. Then we have to learn some of the family scripts that we've been given. So many of us live in community, live with our family, and love our family so much. And as a result, we get cast into roles from young ages where we are told constantly, you can't say no, you're going to let so-and-so down. Or what about this uncle or this cousin or this person or your mom or your dad? Or just being like, oh, I know I can always count on you. You're the responsible one, while everybody else is not pulling their weight or doing their part. There's generational trauma around self-sacrifice too. We can't forget about that. So many of us have been conditioned generation upon generation, passed down from one Black woman to another Black woman, to see self-sacrifice as the standard quo. Part of the reason why I started this podcast was this belief that so many of us were trapped thinking that our lives have to be one of struggle, that we just have to be living in it at all times. I tell a story about how I had this giant wine glass that I love. It's funny. On the wine glass, it says the struggle is real. And it is something that I said as a mantra throughout my 20s and my early 30s. The struggle is real, y'all. If they'd ask me, how are you doing? The struggle is real. And to see the nod and recognition in other Black women being like, girl, I know, that is what I sought to let go of. Because when you ask me right now how I'm doing, even when life is challenging, I rarely say the struggle is real as a response. I've been unlearning that because the podcast was created to help us and myself opt out of struggle, to reject the generational trauma response that tells us that sacrifice and invisibility and taking care of everyone but ourselves is the default setting for being a Black woman. The last area, which can be touchy, is how religious, familial, and community spaces reinforce this concept of generosity. And that's a whole nother question for another time. I've been nervous to tackle it, but this belief that Christianity and this belief that to be Christian is to be unhealthy and to give to the point where you have nothing left. And there has been messaging that I feel like has been weaponized, frankly, against Black women to encourage, and women in general, to encourage overgiving and boundary breaking under the guise of being a good Christian. And this isn't me attacking Christianity or attacking religion. That is not what I'm saying. I want to be very clear about what I am saying, is that sometimes people, well-meaning, can tap into generational trauma, can tap into cultural conditioning, and can sprinkle a little bit of you're a good Christian if you break yourself. And the truth of the matter is that is not healthy. And I cannot believe it's true if you believe in a religious system and faith structure that believes generosity and kindness and compassion is Christian. It's not compassionate to yourself to burn out, to feel invisible, to carry depression and anxiety while everyone else is chilling around you. That doesn't feel kind. It doesn't feel compassionate. And again, we're distinguishing overgiving from generosity because there is a difference. There is a way to fulfill community, familial, and religious obligations and be generous and kind and live the golden rule of do unto others as they would do unto you. That exists and that is valuable. But when we tip into overgiving, boundary breaking, and invisibility and pain, that to me just cannot be healthy. It is not healthy, and it cannot really be what religion, family, and community represent and are about, the intention of those things. And as I said, when you collapse under that care because of those reasons, it shows up in your life in so many different ways. If you're like me, it shows up in a lot of resentment. I was very resentful about the uneven relationships I had in my life, about the fact that I felt like, oh, I have to be the good friend and the strong friend and the good partner and the good daughter, and nobody has to help me out, and I'm doing all these things. I felt resentful, and it was eating at me, that resentment. It took away my joy, and it made me a less pleasant person, I'm sure, to be around. It made me self-righteous. It made me numb out and checked out. And that's another symptom, that emotional numbness that you get when you've just collapsed and you just can't take anymore. You are not emotionally checked in. You are the exact opposite. It also made me feel over responsible for everyone, that their outcomes, how they live their life, was somehow my fault. So not only was I resentful of like their positive outcomes, because it was like, oh, y'all benefited off of me, but I was also internalizing their negative outcomes. So if things didn't work out, if people were, I don't know, dealing with the consequences of their own poor choices, I never let them hold the consequences. I would say, oh, it's my fault. I did something wrong. I should have been a better friend. I should have been a better partner. I should have shown up. I should have been there. I overly invested in people and took on their negative outcomes as my own, which was not healthy. I felt alone a lot. So you often feel like no one's checking in on you. And this one is really powerful, is that I would say yes with my mouth, but my energy, my body language, my vibe was no. And can you imagine, we've all been around people who are passive aggressive, which is really what it is. But passive aggressiveness is literally when your mouth says yes or your mouth says one thing, but your body language, your vibe says another. And being around that person is not pleasant. They're like, you don't want to be here. You don't like me. You don't want to be doing this. Even though your mouth may be saying one thing, everything else in your body is saying no. And of course, the last thing is your joy disappears. It just, you can't be joyful and burned out. Your nervous system won't allow it. Chronically overgiving keeps you stuck in this feeling of hypervigilance, this tension that we talk about that happens. There is nothing healthy about caring for people while collapsing, feeling like you have to exchange your health for theirs. Nothing healthy about that. Let's talk about something too many of us carry in silence: money. The fear, the shame, the confusion, the pressure to hold it all together when it feels like everything is falling apart. Debt, divorce, caregiving, trying to stretch one check into two. Financial stress doesn't just drain your bank account, it drains your spirit. But you don't have to figure it out alone. There's a place where you can lay that burden down and get real help, the Savvy Ladies Helpline. It's free. Yes, free. You'll be matched with a certified financial expert for a private one-on-one session, someone who will listen without judgment and help you take the next right step. You can ask the hard questions. How do I start building wealth even if I've made mistakes? How do I get out of debt? What happens to my money after a breakup? How do I put more joy into my budgeting? This call could change your life because clarity brings peace, and peace with your money is true freedom. Savvy Ladies is a nonprofit dedicated to helping women, especially women like us, learn, plan, and reclaim control of our financial lives. So please, don't stay in silence. Go to savvyladies.org and book your free session today. You don't have to struggle alone anymore. Help is waiting for you. Fall is just perfect. It's my favorite season because it represents comfort, whether it's cozy sweaters or warm flavors. It is a perfect time to lock in as we close the year out and to do it with softness and bring some healthy habits back into focus. And with Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for clean eating, you can do just that. The great thing about Green Chef is that it makes it easier to spend less time in the kitchen and more time enjoying the season. With 80 plus dietitian approved weekly meal options, Green Chef makes it easy to find meals that fit your style. You can pick from Mediterranean, my personal favorite, or gluten free, plant based, and protein heavy, and even gut and brain health with calorie smart choices too. I have enjoyed cooking up these delicious Green Chef meals, and I think you should too. For someone who's always short on time and looking for something that's efficient and delicious, Green Chef hits the mark every time. Make this fall your healthiest yet with Green Chef. Head to greenchef.com/50BGB and use the code 50BGB to get 50% off your first month, then 20% off for 2 months with free shipping. That's code 50BGB at greenchef.com/50BGB. And so, if we know that to be true, if we know that it's going to impact our relationships, it's going to impact our sleep, our health, our creativity, our identity, if we realize that the collapse that we're going to experience is going to have significant impacts across all areas of our lives, how do we pivot? How do we care without collapsing? How do we acknowledge that we're human? How do we appropriately grieve, letting go of being the fixer to the people we love? There's nothing more painful than having to let people live with the consequences of their choices. There's nothing more painful, especially when you want more for them and you feel like you have an answer you could give them. There's nothing more painful than making that decision to let that go, especially when you love someone. But there also is this need and this urgency for you to realize and shift into believing that there is a version of you who can care deeply without abandoning yourself in the process. And I'd like to offer a kind of 3-step way to look at this. The first is to just give only what you can give and still feel whole afterward. So think of it as like a 50% rule. I still have to keep this amount of energy. I need to keep half of my energy for myself at least. I still need to feel like I'm a whole person and I need to be able to give. So I tell people start by cutting that giving in half, thinking about all the areas where you are giving a lot and start listing out and seeing where can I cut back and where can I keep myself whole, but give only 50% of what I've been giving. The second one is pausing before saying yes to all things. Take a pause and insert things like, can I get back to you? Let me think about it. Give me 24 hours. Give me the weekend. This month is tight or tough. Can I get back to you next month? Make that type of response your new best friend. Okay. When anybody asks you to do anything, I want you to practice not saying yes. Even if it is a yes, practice saying, let me get back to you at the end of the day. Let me get back to you tomorrow. Let me get back to you next week, next month, next year. But insert a time limit. Give yourself time in between to really sit with the question in your body, feel what's coming up instead of ignoring it, and then respond. You may still say yes, but I guarantee you, if you're on the fence, you will give yourself permission to say no, and you won't regret that you said yes right away. The last one is letting go of owning everybody's choices. Let go of shared responsibility. At the end of the day, we are only responsible for our personal choices, good ones or bad. And we have got to let grown people be grown. If there's one thing we could work on as Black women, it is that we need to let grown people be grown. We need to let people own their choices, even if they're not the ones we'd like. So often we are in stories where we're talking about people that we love dearly, and we are trying to do everything we can to shield them from the consequences of a bad choice they've been on, a path they've been on for a long time. and we get all involved and enmeshed, and we're there for them and we're helping them every step of the way. And we're like, what about this? Do this. And folks just seem to be determined to make their own choices. And we want to help. But in the process of helping, we often find ourselves in collapse. And so a realization I made a long time ago was to honor the dignity of others' choices, even if they're not the ones I would make. Instead of trying to mitigate or like soften the blow or the consequences, I've learned to let it sit, let people own and experience the consequences of their decisions, even if they're not the ones I would make or I don't agree with them. If they have all the information they need to make the choice, I need to let them live with it. And so when we have those guiding principles, we then need to instill some more practical tools to protect those kind of mindset shifts. And I want to give you a couple of tools for that. That can be an energy check-in. While you are saying, let me think about that, give me 24 hours, I want to give you some tools to kind of manage that. So if you've got a pen and paper, there's some questions and some thoughts to think about taking notes on, or come back to this episode to write this down, because the first tool I want to give you is the kind of energy check-in. Remember, while you're telling people, give me 24 hours, let me think about that, I'll get back to you next month, I'll get back to you by the end of the day. While you're doing that, pause and check your energy and ask yourself these questions. Do I have the capacity to support that person? Here's a powerful one. What do I need first? This is really important because sometimes we're like, yes, I'll help you. And then we don't realize, actually, this weekend I needed to clean. This weekend I needed to just rest because I've been exhausted and not feeling that great. Well, then the answer should be no. The third question, am I saying yes out of guilt or genuine desire? Am I excited about this, or am I dreading it and I just feel bad saying no? The second tool is the idea of presence over performance. Oftentimes we think just showing up and saying yes to everything shows that we are somehow more connected, more tapped in. But the truth is, as we talked about before, if you're feeling numb and resentful, you're not really present. You're just performing the role of good Black woman, people pleaser, caretaker, insert the role. Oftentimes, care doesn't actually mean fixing. It can mean witnessing someone experiencing a hard thing and just knowing that you're there beside them. It can be listening or sitting with them. It doesn't have to be fixing. The second one is giving parameters and boundaries around your time and supporting people through that lens. Things like, girl, you have a minute to talk. I have 10 minutes to talk. I'm on my way out the door, but I always have 10 minutes for you. And letting it be 10 minutes. Or saying, I can help on Saturday morning, but I have to leave afterward. Put boundaries on your time when you say yes to something or you engage in helping and supporting someone else. The last tool is how to redirect a conversation without abandoning yourself or abandoning someone else. Saying things like, I love you and I want to figure this out, but have you thought about talking with your therapist or the person they're actually upset about or some other support service beyond yourself? Insert that in there. The other thing is just to be honest about what you have capacity for. Right now, I'm really overwhelmed with certain things going in my life, so I can't really help as much as I'd love to, but I want you to know that I'm rooting for you. And insert a way you can root for them. I'm going to be the person that like texts you the day of the event, cheers you on, posts about it on social media if you need me to uplift it. I may not have the capacity to attend, but I am rooting for you. And these are the concrete ways I'm going to do that without abandoning myself or abandoning the person you care about in the dynamic. Because here's the thing that I want to tell you. I have tried these things and they have made all the difference. And I want you to know what caring without collapsing actually feels like, because I feel it sometimes daily, not every day, because sometimes I'm still working on it, but I feel it daily because here's what happens when you care without collapsing and you care without self-abandoning. You feel light. You feel excited to do the things you volunteered to do. You experience reciprocity in your relationships. You leave the conversations that used to feel sticky and heavy. You feel steady. You feel like, I feel good about how that went. Your nervous system isn't fried and crispy and burnt out. And here's the best part. You feel more connected, more safe and supported in the relationships that you cherish. You don't lose the people you care about, but you deepen those bonds. I have seen it firsthand. I've experienced it firsthand. And you get the added bonus of having something left for yourself at the end of the day, not crashing into bed and collapsing into bed because you have given 100% and you're exhausted. You get to have your joy back, and joy in giving and in caring and in being generous and feeling good about being a Black woman, a daughter, a mother, a partner, a best friend, a good Christian, or insert your faith, a good Muslim, a good whatever religion you may practice. You get to feel good about carrying those roles versus resentful or guilty. So as we close out today's episode, I want you to think about, where are you carrying too much? What load are you pretending? What weight are you pretending you can handle that you really can't? How can you bring more softness into your connections? Because you are worthy of care, tenderness, and ease. Your needs matter too. Make time to prioritize your care so you do not collapse, and make space to show up for others without losing yourself. Well, that's it for today's episode. You know the drill. If you liked it, please share with someone that you think's carrying too much. Let them know that there's another way. Subscribe to this podcast across all major streaming platforms and follow us on social media. It's real simple. Black Girl Burnout, every which direction. On Substack, my baby, where we are growing and growing and growing. On Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, it's still Black Girl Burnout. We try to give you a different experience in different places, so check it out. And of course, if you are someone who would be so kind as to leave a review, you would make my whole world. It's literally a free way to support the podcast that translates into dollars. Our rating and our number of reviews are taken into consideration when going up for sponsorship opportunities. And I love them. They make me so happy. One example comes from someone, it just put ATM, we're just going to call them ATM, on Apple Podcasts that said, "This podcast adds to my growth." The review says, "This podcast adds to my growth. I love this podcast. I went on a search for self-improvement podcasts after facing so many tough life challenges, and this podcast is one of my favorites. I listen to an episode at least 2 days a week." Well, ATM, I'm gonna. Thank you for listening. And there's a lot of episodes, so if you're just starting the journey, you have plenty of back catalog to get through. And welcome. This space is for you. So if you haven't, please drop a review. It makes my day. I read every single one of them, and I so appreciate you all. Okay, that's it for me. Until next week, take care of yourself, take care of each other, rest well, and embrace caring without collapsing.